Good morning. We've had some technical difficulties. Okay, we need to rotate my phone again. Okay, 1 second. Working with the technology.
Bear with us.
Bear with us. We are finally live.
Patience is a virtue.
Okay, we're finally live.
Good morning.
Good morning. Coffee
Fine
time
morning.
with Janet and Financial Times with Greg. Good morning. So today what I really want to talk about, Greg, is I was listening to a radio station and they were talking about wills and probate and why you need it and making trusts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this whole thing is just so confusing.
Okay.
So tell me.
Okay. So this is like explain to me like I'm five kind of conversation?
Well, it's always like an explain to
this
me
is
like I'm
I'm
five.
always five. I act like I'm five. All right, so first of all, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really dispense legal advice. But from a lay perspective, you know how people are like list makers?
Yeah.
Okay, so a will is basically just a list of instructions about what you want to do with your stuff. What happens to what's technically called your estate.
Right.
Your stocks, your house, everything that you own that's in your name is in your estate. So what the list is sort of this, like my father was a list maker. He made lists and left them all over the house for people. So a will is like that list after he's gone.
Right.
Right? So in the absence of a will, so when you have an asset, when you own something, you have to sign your name, whether it's a bank account or a house on the deed of a house or a stock account. You're the first person that has to is responsible in control of that. When you pass, you can't sign your name anymore. So probate is nothing but the ability for a person, and if you don't have the will that passes that responsibility onto somebody else, probate means the state steps in and becomes your proxy, becomes your signatory. That's all probate is.
Okay, so why does everyone make it like you don't want to go to probate?
Because what happens is it goes into the court system. Let's say in our case in New Jersey, it goes into the court system, and it takes months and months and months to get in front of the judge, and then now they got to bring like people in to kind of come up with an asset list and organize all the things that you have in your life and make sure they don't miss anything. And it takes months and months and months. It's usually a 6 to 9 month process. Again, I'm not a lawyer, I can't dispense legal advice, but that's what happens. So it goes into this black hole, and all the assets are tied up. So the beach house doesn't belong to anybody, the house doesn't belong to anybody, the stock account can't be touched. But the will is a legal piece of paper that says, hey, when I'm gone, this is what I want to have happen. I want my daughter to do this, I want my son to do this, I want my grandkids to get that, and all those things. It's basically that list, that to-do list that my dad used to leave around the house after he's not there anymore. That's all the will is.
So, okay, what's the difference between a will and a trust?
So the will is the list.
Right.
A trust, remember I said the things that belong to you are in an estate? A trust is the place. Think of a trust as a lockbox in a bank. What do they call it? Security boxes. Basically, you're taking the assets that you have, and when either before you die or after you die, you're taking those assets, taking them out of your name and moving them into this lockbox so nobody can touch them. Because the trust itself is like a little company that can own stuff. So for the reasons of, let's say, Medicaid, for example, because a lot of people have to, people are living longer and medical expenses are getting higher. A lot of people's wealth is socked up at the end of their lives to pay for medical expenses, because Medicare is the first level of care. Medicaid is the ones so they go after your assets to try to recoup the money when you go into nursing homes and things like that. So what you do, the trust is nothing but a lockbox that you move your stuff into. And you need a lawyer to do all these things.
Okay, so I just made it clear that we're definitely getting a lawyer on this coffee time with Janet, because we definitely need legal advice.
Right.
But basically the financial part is that you want to protect your assets as much as possible and pass them on to the people that you
intend
to give them to, and you don't lose a lot of money. So basically you want to prevent probate.
You want to prevent probate with being proactive, getting a will together. And there's a couple of pieces of the will. There's basically 3 major components, again, from a legal perspective. I'm not a lawyer, but there's the will, that's that to-do list. There's a medical directive saying Because in different states, they have different laws about pulling plugs and what I want to have happen, do not resuscitate orders and things of that nature. You need to basically spell that out. That's a to-do list just for medical reasons, the medical directive. And the third thing is a power of attorney. Remember, when you're dead, you can't sign your name. That's pretty logical, right? So a power of attorney says, okay, this person can be my signatory, can be my signature. That's called a power of attorney. So those are the three basic documents. Again, from a legal perspective, I can't discuss. But that's basically, now what happens is from the financial advisors that are to help with the assets and make sure that they're put in those. So I spent probably with 3 different clients with the lawyer going through making up the list of assets, securing those assets in trust, and coming up with the rules. When you put something into a trust, you get to write the rules of engagement. So think of it as a company or that lockbox. While I'm alive, I want to write all the rules of engagement there. I pay for weddings. Everybody, when they turn 30, gets $100,000. Whatever the rules are that I want to do. It's like managing money from the grave after you're passing away. So you basically.
Wow. I love to have control. I'm gonna love to. I'm really gonna love to manage the money from the grave. When I was really sick with the cancer, one of the things is I went to the rabbi to tell him all of what I wanted to happen for my children, my husband, all these different things. And he said to me, Janet, you can't micromanage from the grave. Well, there you go. I can micromanage from the grave, and absolutely, I'm a control freak, and I definitely plan to do this so that
everybody has to do it.
I can micromanage from the grave. Let's look at it that way. Go ahead. So basically, the best way to protect your money, because this is the financial part, we're not doing the legal part today. The financial part, the best way to do it is get an elder law attorney, right?
And work with a financial advisor to make sure that those assets are really. So the lawyer writes the list.
Yeah.
The asset management part of it, to make sure that the stuff and the assets go to the people that we want to, is the financial advisor's job. We put the money into trust, we manage those things. When people pass away, we manage the money after they pass away. And then we make sure, let's say, a certain amount of money gets donated to philanthropic ideas. Some pays for education for grandkids. We set up trust for education. So you put together this sort of organized, of list and action items about where this money goes. Once you accumulate a certain amount of wealth, you have to do this whether you're worth $100,000 or $100 million. Everybody needs this, because everything, all you have is a lot of money regardless of how much it is, right?
Right.
Whether that's everything you got, and what you want to do is not make sure it doesn't go to the government, people, litigants, ex-spouses, people that are around. You want to make sure that you want to be able to direct those assets, and that's what we do from a financial perspective, because you work your whole life for these assets that you don't want them to fall into the wrong hands. So you need that list. That's the lawyer piece. You're going to create those lock boxes, those trusts, and you need a lawyer to do that. But the moving around, the lawyer and the financial advisor works very closely together to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and the kids actually get what and the grandkids and the donations to go to the right place, and that's what you do. And it's one of the other things you want to do from that perspective is you want to shelter your money from a Medicaid perspective, because one of the biggest expenses that people have as they get older is going to be healthcare, especially in today's day and age. Of course, it's done by. That's why it needs to be done by lawyers, and they have to be in these solid, non-disputable documents called wills and trusts. That's basically what it is, and you're creating these buckets. And the financial advisor is there to make sure that the assets are moved correctly. The lawyer's there to make sure the language is written correctly, so nobody could dispute it. So now a cousin from North Carolina can't come up and say, basically, I deserve to the money. So the trust is there because the rules of engagement were done while the people are of sound-minded body. I did this with my parents this week. We have some real estate that we need to move around. I sat with my parents, and I did it with 2 or 3, and I sit there, and this is a very important piece. So from a financial advisor's perspective, one of the things you're going to do is manage assets, but the bigger picture here is to manage the big picture. It's like, think of it as parts of your assets in your life are a part of a puzzle. You got to, at some point in time, look at the cover of the puzzle box to be able to put all this together. Part of this trust is called estate planning, trusted estate planning. This is looking at the cover box. You need the cover box. Unless you could sit down and have a great relationship with your financial advisor, you need to disclose this. You did it to your rabbi because you felt comfortable and trusted with that. You got to find a lawyer that you trust, a financial advisor that you trust, and those are the people that help you build your puzzle. Because someday you're not going to be around to do the puzzle anymore. Where's the money going to go? It needs to be organized. This is about, you can either choose to stick your head in the sand, because mortality is a very difficult topic to discuss.
Right.
Especially with your kids, because we come from a generation where we don't over communicate. These kids, they communicate about everything on social media, but the generations now where we're dealing with this now, where most of the wealth is right now in the country is between the ages of 45 and 65. So we got to deal with those level of people to manage it, to make sure it doesn't go to the government, because if not taken care of correctly, it can be taxed inefficiently. Don't give the money to the government. You should give it to your kids. You worked your whole life for it.
There you go. Well, we hope that we gave you good information. That's what our goal is today. If you have any questions for the future about finances, we'll answer them.
Know.
Have a great day.
Ciao.
Ciao. We'll speak to you soon. Bye.